Hello, everyone. Yes, Rob, today is a typhoon signal number 8. So basically, there's no one in this building except me and Master Shane. But we found it very important to come to this office and talk about the balance test. Why? Okay, imagine you are driving in your car, okay? And in front of you, there is a cliff. And you are stepping on your gas because your body has a lot of omega-6. This is causing all sorts of inflammation. And you are driving in a very dangerous direction towards the cliff. Now, you have to know how close it is to the cliff before you drop yourself into down the hill. During the balance test, it's going to tell you how close, okay? Now, you are going to use our balance oil because this balance oil is the omega-3. It helps you to step on your brake before you drop into the cliff. So this is a very basic concept. I know there is a lot of new people here. I'm going to show everyone how to do the balance test. So this is the balance test. Open it up. There will be a password. Okay, this is the password and the website. Okay, just go to this website, enter the password, and then enter all the personal information except your name and your date of birth. Okay, take this one. Use your cell phone to take a photo and keep it in your wallet. And there's a little card inside. So there are 2 little circles here. So I am going to show everyone how to do it. Okay. Here, there's a small plastic bag. Open it up. There's a alcohol swab. Okay. So for the English version, I'm going to use this finger. In the next hour, I'm going to use this finger. And the next hour, I'm going to use this finger. So this is a world record. This is a world record. I'm going to do 3 balance tests within 3 hours. Okay, it's the first test here. So rub your finger like this, easy. And then take this little guy, remove the cap, the white thing here. Done. So squeeze a little bit so you see the blood. Okay. Put it here. Nice and beauty. Okay. Another job. Here. Done. And then use this to hold it for 5 seconds. Insert it back. Okay. Put this in the aluminum bag. Okay. This envelope to the laboratory in Norway, Vitus. And then put this into a bigger envelope, send it to the Hong Kong office. And I will help everyone to send this to Norway. It takes 2 days from Hong Kong to Norway. And it takes 5 days for the laboratory to give you a detailed report. So the next person coming on stage will be Master Shane. So why you have to listen to Master Shane? So he has his master's degree in nutritional science. And over the last 6 years, he has been doing medical interpretation for medical conferences for doctors and many professionals. So he has a lot of research about the balance test. So let's welcome Master Shane to talk about our Zinzino balance test.
Okay, so if this is your first time joining our webinar, welcome. And if you're coming back for the second time, welcome back. So this week, we're going to be talking about the balance test, as you've just seen in Peter's demonstration. So this week's topic is, why is it important to take the balance test? And here's a little rundown of what we're going to talk about today. I'll give you some introduction to the balance test, And then we'll talk about why I should take or why you should take the test, and whether you can trust the test, whether you can trust the results, and what information you will get, and finally, what you can do with this information. So a little information, introduction to the test. It's a dried blood spot test. It's quick, as you can just see. As you saw just now, it takes less than 1 minute to do it. It's very convenient. You can do it anywhere, and it's very simple. It doesn't require any medical or professional knowledge, and you can do it for your friends, for your family, for anyone. And it's accurate, as we'll learn later. And it's an anonymous test. It's code protected, which means your identity will never be disclosed to anybody. Nobody will know, not even the lab, because you will get a code, as you can see on the screen here, and only you will have access to it because it's protected by the EU's GDPR. So your information, your privacy is safe with us, with Balance Test, and with the with Zinzino as well. And they have a big database. So I checked this weekend, they have now tested over 545,000 people. Okay, so the company that is doing the analysis for Zinzino for the balance test is Vitas Analytical Services. They were established in 1994, and they are a spin-off from the University of Oslo's Department of Nutrition. They're also GMP certified, and they have a lot of collaborative projects with prestigious institutions and large corporations in the world, including Oxford, Cambridge, King's College London, University College Dublin, and Abbott. And the average processing time it takes for them from the arrival of your sample is about 3 to 4 days on average. So let's talk about why you should take this test. The balance test is actually like the GPS of your health map. As you can see on the screen, there is a GPS. So if you want the fastest route to your destination, you need to find out where you are first. And that's exactly what the balance test does for you, because you need to know where you are right now so you can get to where you want to be. That's your destination, that's your health goals. So the balance test will give you a gauge of your current fatty acid levels. There are altogether 11 fatty acids in the report, and then it will also give you some indicators or predictors of many aspects of your health. It's not a comprehensive test, but it's a very powerful test nonetheless. And who should take it? It's relevant to people who don't eat very healthily, or even if you think you are very healthy, you can still take it and to see how good your own estimate of your health level is. Because I thought I was very healthy as well, and I took the test. I was quite shocked. So why should we be concerned about the fatty acid levels in our blood? It all comes with this surge of degenerative diseases, and the root cause is inflammation. Almost 80 or even 90% of these modern diseases actually come from chronic inflammation in our body. And why do we have this condition in our body? It's because of the rise of omega-6 oils in our diet. If you look at the chart, look at the graph here on the bottom left. The red line represents soybean oil consumption in the US since 1909 up to 1999. So that's about in almost 100 years' time, the consumption, the level of consumption of soybean oil has risen so much. And we know soybean oil is mostly omega-6 oils, and that's one of the reasons why our consumption, our intake of omega-6 oils has increased so much. And if you look at the chart on the right, it shows the linoleic acid content in body fat in Americans from 1961 to 2008. And if you look at 1960, the level of linoleic acid in body fat is quite low, relatively low. But, in 2010, it's now it's now multifold. And if you compare that with chimpanzee, which is a very close relative of humans, they're also a primate. Their level of linoleic acid in their body fat has pretty much stayed stable because they don't eat the same food that we do, and that's a big problem with our diet. So why is oil relevant to the problem of inflammation and degenerative diseases? It all started in the 1960s. Actually, back in the 1950s, there was already emerging evidence showing a link between sugar, the consumption of sugar, and cardiovascular diseases, different forms of heart diseases. But in the 1960s, the sugar industry decided to do something about it. The Sugar Research Foundation paid 3 Harvard scientists the equivalent of $50,000 in today's dollars to publish a 1967 review of research on sugar, fat, and heart disease, as you can see on the bottom here. That's exactly the review article that I'm talking about, and it was published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. And what the scientists did was they played down the link between sugar and heart disease and shifted the blame to saturated fat. And what's worse was they never revealed that they had been paid to do it, because back in those days, it was not a requirement for published scholars to reveal whether they were sponsored or not. So ever since then, the trend has changed. And let's look at that chart again. Now we're looking at the same chart as we've just seen. And if you look at the most rapid increase, that's after 1967, there was a sharp increase of consumption of soybean oil, which is omega-6 oil, which causes inflammation in your body. Well, I can't establish a definite link between that article and the rapid increase in soybean consumption, but then we know they were Harvard. Well, all of them have died actually, but they were Harvard scientists and they were influential, and a lot of people responded to this research, and the government did something and they changed the direction of their health policy. And ever since then, the consumption of soybean oil has been increasing and increasing. If you look at the graph on the right, we see that back in 1909, the percentage of caloric contribution from soybean oil was less than 0.001%. It was only 0.006. But then in 1999, it contributed to 7.38% of all the calories taken by the Americans. And I can only suspect that it will be even higher now, because that data come from 30 years ago. So this is really alarming, because we are taking in more and more omega-6 fatty acid in our diet. Okay, let's look at it from a historical perspective. In prehistoric time, the Paleolithic humans actually had an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of 0.79, which means they had way more omega-3 fatty acids in their diet than they did of omega-6. And then the bottom 3 categories, we see the UK and the US, they had 15 and 16.74. That is a staggering figure, because that means they are living in inflammation all the time. The body is always on fire. And if we look at India, it's even scarier. It's 38 to 50. So these figures are really, really scary, because it means worldwide this chronic inflammation situation is widespread, it's worldwide, and we really cannot ignore it anymore. We have to do something about it. And then let's look at it, from a worldwide perspective. This map shows the percentage of EPA and DHA, which are the two major omega-3 fatty acids. So basically, it shows the omega-3 index, which is the sum total of EPA and DHA. Green represents more than 8%, and that is the ideal amount. And red is lower than 4. And we see the majority of Western countries are red. And we see that Australia is orange, China is orange, the majority of Europe is also orange. So this is really alarming as well, because if we look at the whole world, really not that many places are green, which means their intake of omega-3 fatty acids is miserably insufficient. Okay, so we're talking about this 6:3 ratio. And what exactly are the health implications of this ratio? If you have a ratio of 4:1, which means omega-6 to omega-3, you have 4 omega-6 to 1 omega-4 ratio. That is associated with a 70% decrease in cardiovascular mortality. If you have a ratio of 2.5 to 1, there will be reduced rectal cell proliferation in colorectal cancer, which basically means the cancer will spread more slowly. And if you have a ratio of 5 to 1, it will confer some beneficial effects on asthma patients. If you have a ratio of 2.1, inflammation in rheumatoid arthritis could be suppressed. And if you have a ratio of 10 to 1, there will be adverse consequences, which is exactly what the majority of the world are now facing. Okay, so now I know the implications of this ratio, but can I trust the test? Can I trust the balance test? Okay, so I did a bit of research, and then this slide is actually taken from Thomas's presentation on the test a few weeks ago, and he intentionally, so we see 5 filter papers here. There's one which is blank, and he intentionally did that. He actually touched his finger to this filter paper, or maybe there was some hand cream on it, and we see, well, there is still result here, but it's not omega-3 fatty acids, it's C16, it's a saturated fatty acid. So which basically means the test is very sensitive, and you have to make sure that your fingertips are clean when you do the test. Make sure that you clean it with soap, and then use the alcohol swab as well before you do the test, and never touch it, because it can contaminate the paper and it will affect the result. Also from Thomas's slide, the whole process is very precise. In fact, most of the processing is done by the robots, which are very expensive according to Thomas. So according to a professor of medicine at the University of South Dakota, the red blood cell membrane is actually the best sample type for assessing omega-3 fatty acid status, which is exactly what is used in the balance test. And well, but what about this? Does the test really reflect my marine oil intake? According to this study, the plasma or red blood cell fatty acid content is actually that it actually shows a good correlation with DHA, a fairly good correlation with EPA, and a moderate correlation with L-linoleic acid, which means the test will quite faithfully show the amount of fatty acid, marine oil fatty acid in your red blood cells from your diet. Okay, but can I trust the results? Okay, if you see this study here, it basically concludes that erythrocyte, which means red blood cell DHA is a good indicator of cardiovascular health status, which means that the tests that you get and the results, the report that you get, will actually tell you how healthy you are in terms of your, heart and your cardiovascular system. So yes, we can trust the results. Okay, so now that I know why I should take the test, and I know a little bit about the background, and I know I can trust the test, I can trust the results. But what exactly will I get when I take the test? Okay, you'll see the lipid profile of 11 fatty acids in your blood, which will be reflexive of your diet in the past 120 days. Then, this is what we talked about earlier, the GPS. You will be able to see where you stand right now compared with the target values. And then you will also get 6 indicators: your protection value, the omega-3 level, a sum of EPA and DHA, the balance, omega-6 to omega-3 balance, and then the arachidonic acid formation efficiency. It basically shows you if you have a very low level, it means it might lead to more frequent infections or delayed wound healing. And then you also get a figure about your cell membrane fluidity, and then your mental strength, how well protected your brain is. And at the end of the report, you get some recommendations on what food to eat. So this is what the new report looks like. As you can see here, it's very graphic and it's color-coded as well. Red means you're unbalanced. So here, the 6-to-3 ratio is unbalanced. The protection value is not even shown here because the value is too low. And then you see the omega-3 index, your mental strength, and all those indicators that I just talked about. And then at the bottom, you see the different fatty acids. Okay, but can taking marine oil or fish oil really help, these figures? According to this study, if you consume 750 milligrams of dietary marine omega-3 fatty acids per day, you can raise your omega-3 index by 2 points. And how do I know whether my index is improved or not? You can retake your balance test, and in the new balance test, you will actually be able to track your progress. You see here, the first time someone did it, it was unbalanced, and then the second time it was balanced. Okay, but what about the Zinzino products? Are they really helpful? Can I trust them? So this is also a slide from Thomas's presentation. We see a comparison between people who did the test for the first time without taking any omega-3 products, and then after 120 days, we see the mean value here. It raised from 3.5 to 5.8. That's more than a 2-point increase. And then here we see a comparison before and after of all countries. There is no exception. All countries improved. And here on the right are the data of the different countries as well. And then here again, we see 2 comparisons. This line in the middle, the black line, represents 8, which is a recommended level of EPA plus DHA. If you've never taken any omega-3 product before, very few people can reach that level, that recommended level. But after 120 days, many people reach that goal of 8. You see a much larger portion of people have crossed over, the 8 threshold. And then on the right, we see the ratio. ARA is omega-6 fatty acid and EPA is 3. So we see a comparison of the average. Before taking the oil, the average ratio was 15.2, which is undesirable. And after 120 days, it dropped to 4.9, as an average. And this is also, a graph of all countries, no exception, all improved. So to answer that question, can Zinzino products help? Yes, they can, as we can see on these charts and figures. Okay, so now that I know the products can help, well, what can I do with this information? Let's look at this quote here. A man with options is a man with power. What exactly am I talking about? Because this power really lies not merely in having this knowledge, because this knowledge will give you options, the gift of options. And when you have options, you have power. And what kind of options are we talking about? We're not talking about disease prevention here. Well, yes, it's true, prevention is better than treatment, but that is obsolete. Because when you're talking about disease prevention, you're still talking about disease. I don't want to implant the idea of disease in your mind. Some people say disease or maybe health starts with the gut. But if you look at the data, the majority of modern diseases are actually psychosomatic. So they really start in your mind. So I don't want you to even have the idea of or the possibility of disease. I want you to think in terms of health creation, because with this information you can make informed choices and change your outlook on life and become a co-creator of well-being instead of a passive reactor to disease or symptoms. I mean, let's think about it this way. If you're always thinking about disease prevention, you are passive, you're reactive, and it's a fear-based approach. It's like you're being chased by a shark and you're just trying to swim away from it, and the shark is the disease. And what's wrong with a fear-based approach? Because, well, it will increase the stress hormones in your body, the cortisol, the adrenals, and in the long term they can, wreak havoc on your body, and then they can damage your brain, your hippocampus, and then people talk about not being present anymore, not being able to focus because their brain is damaged. We don't want this. We want a more active, more positive approach, and that is health creation. So join the new paradigm of health creation, and you can realize your potential of living a life free of pain and ailments, and a life full of energy and excitement. Because now you have the choice to enjoy a longer health span. We're not talking about lifespan, because there are many people who are living into their 90s or even over 100 years old, but then they are decrepit, they have a lot of ailments and pains. We don't want that. We want a health span, which means we're living healthily, even into our 90s or even 100 years old. And now you have the choice to lead a radiant life. You have the choice to live a life filled with fulfillment, joy, and love. So what choices are we talking about? And what exactly is health creation? So think about it this way. Now we don't want that shark chasing us. We're still in the ocean. Instead, we see a tropical paradise in front of us, a beautiful island with a beautiful beach with fine sand and coconut trees. And then you see a lovely glass of pina colada there, and then that's the image that you want to think about when you think about health. You're swimming towards it. That's health creation. That's the image that you want. So the choices, the decisions you make can actually have a lot of impact on your own health and the health of the people around you. Well, first of all, it could be a difference of life or death. Why do I say that? You see that picture? That is not a snake. That is a sperm. And then there's a beautiful baby there. According to this study, it shows that infertile men, people who are not able to have babies, well, we're talking about men, okay, had lower concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids in their sperm. This is not a cause and effect relationship. They haven't proven it yet, but we see men who are infertile actually have lower concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids. Well, we don't have to wait for scientists to prove that. We can start taking a more proactive approach and supplement our diet with omega-3 fatty acids. And, a lot of people are spending money on IVF treatment or other, treatments because they so desperately want a baby, but they can't conceive. I don't know, but maybe this could be one of the solutions to the problem. I mean, this definitely needs more research, but then there's no harm in supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids, right? Okay, and look at this chart here. This study showed that a desirable omega-3 index is associated with a 22. It's a whopping 22% reduction in all-cause mortality. What does that mean? It means no matter what, whether you have a disease or not, or whatever disease it is, if your omega-3 index is desirable, which means it's over 8%, there is a 22% reduction in mortality. And if you're currently suffering from cardiovascular disease, there's also a 22% reduction. It is very relevant to today's society, to today's world, because a lot of people are suffering from these diseases. And even if you're healthy, it is also relevant to you because we're talking about all-cause mortality here. Also, this choice could affect whether you look youthful or aged. According to this study, it was found that supplementation with marine omega-3 fatty acids has the following benefits on the skin. It can inhibit UV-induced inflammation and hyperpigmentation. Think about freckles and spots on your face. It can attenuate dry skin, which means you can have moist, dewy, plump, elastic skin, and it can speed up skin wound healing as well. Okay, look at this picture here. On the left, we have a very youthful looking lady, and on the right, it's an old lady. But I know we all age, but we don't have to have premature aging signs on our face or in the performance of our different organs. In this study, in a 5-year study, an inverse relationship was found between the blood levels of marine omega-3 fatty acids and the rate of telomere shortening, which means the higher the blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids, the slower your aging is, because telomere shortening is an indicator of aging. Well, your choices could make the difference of vitality or sluggishness. In this study, cyclists were supplemented with DHA-rich oil, and the researchers found that their relative oxygen consumption was reduced, leading to improved economy of cycling, which means their exercise was more efficient. And the authors even concluded DHA-rich fish oil can actually modulate oxygen consumption during intense exercise. You might be thinking, oh, well, these are elite level athletes, but the same results, the same benefits could be enjoyed by people like you and me, who are just regular people who do exercise as well, because we do sometimes do intense exercise. I mean, when you hit the gym and do, a high intensity interval training, that's intense exercise as well. Or if you're running, doing, a marathon. Okay, again, a lot of people complain about not having enough energy, or they have this chronic fatigue syndrome. In this particular study of 42 patients with this syndrome, the level of DHA was actually shown to be much lower than the control group. Again, this is not a cause and effect relationship, but we see, an emerging trend in all these different diseases, and it seems like DHA and EPA and these marine fatty acid oils have a role in so many different conditions, health conditions and diseases in in our modern day in our health, in general. Okay, and your choices could lead to joy or suffering. Did you know that a high 6-to-3 ratio is associated with a lot of mental health and neurological disease risks? It could increase the risk for depression, attention deficit disorder, psychosis, schizophrenia, and even cognitive impairment. According to the author of this review, DHA together with EPA have been shown to benefit attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, autism in a lot of kids, dyspraxia, which is developmental coordination disorder, dyslexia, and aggression. And think about it this way. These diseases or these conditions greatly affect our quality of living, our happiness level, and how well we live our life. And a lot of these people, and then earlier on we were talking about dementia and Alzheimer's. Imagine living with dementia. It's like a living hell. There's no quality of life at all because you don't even recognize your loved ones anymore. And you can't even take care of yourself, because I know some friends whose grandparents have dementia and they need to be fed. They can't eat by themselves, and they aren't able to go out by themselves. According to this study, well, we know that a lot of demented old people have depression as well. This shows that increased DHA and EPA could improve the depression symptoms, and they were showing improved verbal fluency, which means they are able to communicate better, to express themselves better, so they don't have to feel disconnected, cut off from the world all the time. And they have increased autonomy in their life as well. So, these choices you make could lead to, huge differences in quality of life. It could be a difference in dignity, and dignity really could be the difference between being fed or eating by yourself. And then it could give you freedom, because it could be the difference between being able to go out by yourself or going out under the supervision of a caretaker because you can't take care of yourself. And really, you don't have to subject yourself to choices others make for you, because if you can't verbalize, if you can't articulate yourself, they might dictate where you should be going or what you should be eating. But you don't have to. You can make all these choices for yourself. You can start acting today and become a healthier version of yourself and enjoy a life of joy instead of, reacting passively to symptoms and diseases. So that is the end of, my research. But then I have a bonus for you. I know staying healthy is not always easy. And then I understand that, living in a modern society like this means sometimes you will have lapses. And one of them is soft drinks. I don't personally drink them, but then I know a lot of people do, and I know they enjoy them. And I don't want them to feel deprived, but just make sure that you drink them in moderation. But I want to warn you about these soft drinks because they are very high in high fructose corn syrup. And did you know that corn syrup actually can wreak havoc on your brain and your DNA, because a lot of it, the majority of it on the market is GMO. And they also contain a lot of harmful substances like preservatives and colorings. But, well, there's some good news for you. Hopefully it's good news, but it doesn't give you a reason to indulge in, soft drinks all the time. This study shows that DHA can actually reverse the genomic network perturbations, meaning, the genetic and the structural damages caused by fructose. So if you must drink, soft drinks or eat, packaged cereals, at least make sure you get your daily dose of EPA and DHA to protect your brain and to protect your genes. So now this really is the end of my presentation today. And here's what we're going to talk about next week. Next week, we will talk about how Balance Oil Plus can support your immune function, how it can boost your immunity. And so thank you very much for tuning in today, and I hope you found the information useful. So, Rob.
Fantastic, my friend. Thank you so much. What an outstanding presentation. And Master Shane, it's just always great to listen to your information because it's very compelling and, it is factual. That's the key thing about your data that you share. It's all factual data. And the balance test is an important part of what we do here at Zinzino. But I want you to remember, guys, as you send these balance tests in, okay, from all the way around Hong Kong, China, there is an envelope that you must add in as well, okay? So this will send it to our Hong Kong, China address, okay, at 1 Peking. So when you get the white test, you need to put the envelope, put it inside, okay, put the test inside it, okay, and then send it away to Peter, and Peter will get that. And for an example, like me here in Australia today, guys, these are the ones that have come in today. So, we have envelopes full of tests that have come in today. These are all the ones that have arrived today. So all those will go away every Wednesday and Friday in Australia. And Peter, you're doing the same thing, I believe, Wednesday and Friday or thereabouts as well. As the envelopes fill up, we send them away. Our response time here is by the time you get them to the office, we will send them off immediately, okay? So Wednesday or Friday, and then it's a 7 to 10 days reading with Vitus. So I want to thank you, Master Shane, for doing what you did. Next session, okay, on the hour is going to be in Chinese, and then we come back the hour after that, and we're going to do Cantonese for those wonderful people that want to listen in the native tongue of Hong Kong. Peter Lam, is there any final questions you can add in there?
Well, thank you, Rob, and thank you, Master Shane. I want to share one information to all of you. I want to tell you my first balance test result. My score was 24-1. 24-1. So I'm very close to that cliff. So I'm approaching to chronic information. So everyone, I think you saw this number. So Peter Lam, allowing every one of you to check my result maybe a week later. So after I do my first test, I am using the balance oil every day for 2 months. So 2 months time. So I want every one of you to look at my result a week later. I don't know what is the improvement, but I am so confident because yesterday I just received a phone call from a gentleman. So he's about 60 years old. He is a vegetarian. So his first test was shocking, 39-1. 39-1. And I introduced him about the balance oil. So he started taking the balance oil for just 30 days. And he done his second test. And you know what is his result? His second test, 5-1, just 30 days. So this is what I'm going to say. I am allowing every one of you to check my improvement. So I'm using the balance oil for just 2 months time. So it's about me to go because I have to clean my hand. I'm going to do my second test for the Mandarin speaking community. So this is a world record. I'm doing 3 tests at the same time. And look, if you have time, you can copy my second password and my third test password. So all these 3 tests should have the same result. There's no bias from this Vitus lab. So I have to go now. I have to clean my hands, and I'm going to do the next session. So bye-bye, everyone.